Hi from Los Angeles. My name is John Kyo, and welcome to the 2020 version of the Future of Food 10 by 10 CEO series. And in this series, I will again speak with 10 CEOs for 10 minutes to learn a little bit about their organizations, but also to hear their perspectives on what the key challenges are in the food industry and also the key opportunities. And today I'm delighted to have with me the CEO of Rigino, based in Beirut, Lebanon, Sabah Corm. Hello, Sabah.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me on 10 by 10 interviews. I'm happy to be part of it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sabah. Now the 10 minutes goes very, very quickly, Sabah. So in the first 30 seconds, what is the key elevator pitch for your company, Rigino?
Rigino is an end-to-end real-time traceability platform allowing brand owners and a primary producer to log the traceability data of every incident across the supply chain. It facilitates regulatory compliance, supplier management, and in fact, recall management and incident reporting. With Rigino, we're using GS1 standards for interoperability of data and blockchain for the immutability of data. So we're looking at new technology to be implemented in the agro-food sector.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. Now, Sabah, in the region that you're in the Middle East and globally, what do you see as the key challenges that the food industry you're dealing with today?
Well, the COVID-19 outbreak has changed a lot of people's behavior, especially in this part of everywhere. In this part of the world, in the Middle East and North Africa region, it's quite a different way of looking at the problem. Because in this part of the world, we mainly do not produce, we import. So there is a high level of production, but we still import a lot of products. So people realized that they need a better quality of food, more food safety, better visibility on what they eat and they consume every day. So today we think that in this area, we need to go towards a sustainable health food production system. So they are talking about it and a government is looking at it. There is a more focus, I would say, on the technology because there is no advancement without focusing on the tech part. So technology will enable better reporting, but the technology today in the agro-food business is quite limited still in all this part of most countries of this part of the world. So there is another challenge, I would say, at the farmers level, where farmers are not tech-oriented at all. So data collection from farmer is quite still today a big challenge for the region.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sabah. And I'll definitely come back to some of those key points or challenges during our discussion today. So based on the challenges that you see, how can you turn those into opportunities? And how is your company focused on leveraging these opportunities to help companies grow within the region?
Well, opportunities, something maybe I would say a good outcome of the COVID-19 is that people are focused more on the tech part in different areas. If we look today at the food sector, they are looking at a safer way. Food safety is becoming more of the talk of the day. So they are looking at a safer and sustainable supply chain system. And if I drill down a little bit, it has to be applied in 3 areas. And this is where we see the key opportunities. On the production level, which is related to ISO, related to HACCP and the global cap and applying all of these rules. On the tech sector, where more technology is being evaluated today in terms of processes, automation, IoT, etc. And maybe above all, I would look at it from the consumer perspective. It's a key opportunity to operate in that space because the consumer today is more, I would say, savvy and demanding. They want to know what they are eating and they want to have the choice, but the choice based on real data. So this is where we see large opportunities for traceability because it provides visibility and transparency across the supply chain.
Wonderful. Now, Sabah, going back to the challenges that you mentioned earlier, one of the key points you mentioned is at the farmer level and the data collection. And why do you think that is? Is it because of old ways of thinking, or is it just a pure lack of tools that farmers can use to collect the data and share with their trading partners?
Well, I would say both, John, because farmers usually are not highly educated. And in this part of the world, they are small farmers. You rarely find the large farming industry and system. So they are independent, more or less, and they need to take this decision. So any advancement in the tech, it's about financing it. So we need to educate them to a certain extent. There is a big challenge in making them change the way they do their business today. So they are farmers, so they do the crops, they know all the ins and outs of farming. But when it comes to technology, they are afraid. They think it's something not for them, and we need to change this mindset.
That's great to hear. Now, leveraging on top of that, when we look at the opportunities that your platform is bringing, do you think that there's a real opportunity right now to sit down with these farmers and to look at the value add of what they're doing, and then be transparent about what they're doing with consumers to help build trust and increase the brand reputation? Because in a lot of cases, farmers are doing a lot of really, really good work, but they're not getting paid for it. So if a farmer is organic, for example, are they getting the benefits for that in the supply chain? So will technology help them to get their message to the market, to consumers, and get them a higher price for their product eventually?
Well, we're more focusing on the food manufacturing. And when the food manufacturing are provided end-to-end solution, traceability end-to-end, they need the data from the farmer. So they are asking the farmers to give them these data. Eventually, as a second step, farmers will have to grab these data because there are regulations also related to gathering this data and collecting them and providing them. So we're more focused on the manufacturer level, though we have a project with farmers, and we are working with some organization to educate, I would say, farmers on the need of including technology at their end too. But I mean, everybody acknowledged today, government, consumers, manufacturers, farmers. Today, there is a major change that should be done in terms of traceability for food safety. They need to create this visibility and to be more authentic and credible towards their markets.
Gotcha.
So if I look at Rigino, we're working with them we're working with them on establishing this expertise in terms of collecting certain data sets and to make it as minimum as possible in phases. So whatever is mandatory today to have a good traceability, we're working not on making these projects as too big, just phases, you know, like the first phase would be gathering certain data, not to hassle to get them, and then to move later on where we go, but maybe towards IoT and other larger solutions.
But if I'm a farmer, to mine into that a little bit more, if I'm a farmer, what is the incentive for me to provide more information to the manufacturer?
Well, this is one of the brainstorming we're doing with some key stakeholders today. I think the main incentive for the farmer would be his access to market. Today, the farmer has very, very low margin on his products, and his access to market is quite very difficult because he goes through distributors and he sells. There are like 5 or 6 levels before it reaches the market. So if his price is very low and he wants to reduce this complexity if he can. And so today with online activities, there are lots of initiatives in terms of connecting farmer directly to consumer and all of these. I think in that area, this is a good incentive for them.
Wonderful. And when you look at the regional market, you mentioned again at the challenges and the opportunities, you mentioned regulatory compliance, you mentioned HACCP, you mentioned other food safety standards. Is that a weakness in the area right now? And how important is technology to help companies to be compliant with regulation and food safety standards, private food safety standards?
Well, I think they are quite, I would say, up to date, especially that the regulations went out a few years ago. So they have to abide by regulations. So certain manufacturers do have good systems, like whether it's a global gap on the farmer level, or HACCP on the manufacturing, or ISO for processes. However, what we see is that there is still a lack of digitization and automation. We have seen paperwork everywhere. And we know that this is not specific to one country, it's specific to multiple countries in the Middle East and North Africa region. We have been talking to these manufacturers, and we know they have a challenge at that end. But what makes it maybe easier or faster to onboard them is that they have the processes. We have seen lots of paper, lots of tables, kind of Excels here and there, but the data is not interconnected. So our platform will bring this solution to them.
Gotcha. Now, Sabah, I'm going to deliberately go over our time allotment today for a specific reason, because you're representing really the Middle East area. So we're going to go several minutes over our 10 minutes today, and I have no problem with that because this is a very important discussion. So what generally is the biggest barrier that you're seeing? Is it to create that digital ecosystem and do that capacity building, that education, as it were, to get farmers and processors on board? What are the key challenges with that?
I would say the key challenge is to convince companies to invest in a traceability system, especially that we are software as a service. So it's not on premises, it's a cloud solution. So to invest in this solution, it's very important to show them the return on investment. So for them, still tech solutions are a cost center. So of course, not for all companies. Some companies are, I would say, more advanced than the others, but they try to go very cautiously with their budgets when it comes to investing in technology. They still, some of them still believe that we have the paperwork, it's good enough. We have ISO, we have, it's not good enough on the longer term. Especially today, where you need to create the trust, and paper are not trustful. You need to have a third party, I would say, platform where data is collected in real time. So it's not like because we want a report and we generate this report and we manipulate it. We need to create this level of trust by engaging with professionals and some platforms.
Wonderful. And my second last question for you, do you think if Lebanese farmers and producers got onto a platform like yours, it would help them not only comply with national regulations, but also to address the export market and build credibility?
Of course. All this part of the world today are looking how to export their products, whether it is fresh produce like farmers, or even manufacturing. So there are lots of innovation. Most of the accelerators in this part of the world are looking at innovation in the food industries. So we see this innovation. We have a new type of apple chips, healthy, etc. New type of olive oil mixing. And we have good innovation in the food industry, and they want to export. The market is too small. And to export to European countries or to North American countries, they know they have to abide by regulations. So the traceability solution will bring them this level of confidence that these data are trustful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Sabah. And it certainly, my mouth waters when I think of Lebanese food after spending almost 2 years in Lebanon in the 1980s with the United Nations. Very, very fond memories of that time. So Sabah, in the final 30 seconds or so, if you were up in front of 50 new startup companies, CEOs that have a new product in Lebanon, they want to bring it to market, what guidance would you give them with regard to the usage of technology?
Well, I would suggest, first of all, I would suggest to review their processes. This is main step to reinvent certain things, and then to invest in a paperless automated technology. And then they need to look at a proper data mapping. They have to know the data, to gather the data, to ask for the data. If a company is importing from a foreign country, they have to ask for the data too. And then the last thing I would suggest to them to select a good partner for technology like us.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. There you have it, all the way from Beirut in Lebanon, Sabah Corm, the CEO of Rigino. Sabah, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us today. As I mentioned, we went over our allotted time by about 50%, but I'm okay with that because your message is very, very important for the Middle East. And I think you hit on some crucial points that are very, very important. So thank you so much, Sabah, for sharing your time with us.
Thank you, John. Thanks for you.